webinar. We have been having a few other webinars already. So the first one was on digitizing education management, and the second one was on digitizing the teaching practice. And then the third one was education in the world, which is bridging the gap between education and the market. And the fourth one was on systematic data for decision making, and we focused more on transnational experiences. And today we are going to kind of have a bit of a combination. That's what I do believe in terms of e-teaching experiences, and also just drawing from what we've been learning and experiencing throughout the year. So, in essence, the webinar series is a joint effort from GLODOM and EDWIT, who are basically just joining forces to provide a national-grade education digitalization ecosystem for Namibia. EDWIT is a leading education software ecosystem in Finland, where 90% of Finnish higher education institutions are using its edutech solutions. And GLODOM has advanced the quality of education in Africa for local capacity building and relevant education technology solutions. Since 2012, GLODOM's projects have advanced the quality of education for over 60 schools and over 56,000 learners in Namibia particularly. And really now GLODOM's main aim is to transform the way information is managed at all levels of education in Namibia. GLODOM and EDWIT's goal essentially is to change the way school and student management and related services are done in the country, and we are aiming to pave the way for modern and simple to use digital platforms and genuine tools for self-leadership, where each stakeholder can really enjoy up-to-date and highly accessible information and base their decision on facts that we draw from this information. So essentially, we really just wanting to pave that way for really modern tools for everyone to have access to that, especially our teachers on the ground. Without further ado, I would want to just bring up our first speaker, and we are giving 10 minutes for each speaker so that afterwards we can then have questions, etc. I do want this to go as interactive and as smoothly as possible. I would say when the speakers are speaking, we can allow them to finish their presentation, but I think we can allow for questions in between. I don't know now if the speakers would like that, but yeah, feel free to interact, especially on the chat, because when we are reading up the questions, we can be able to ask the speakers to provide us with those answers to those specific questions. But whenever you do want to ask a question, then you can unmute yourself and then ask your question and then mute yourself again. I would ask and request that we all keep our mics muted unless you want to say something, so that we can then have a good interactive but also quiet environment for the person that's speaking at any given time. Altti, are you ready for us?
Yes, thank you, Loise.
I will then just stop sharing my screen, and then, yeah, the floor is all yours.
Okay. And I hope that all those who don't have questions or presentations, please keep your microphones muted, and also the video off, because video takes so much bandwidth. It's a little bit tricky to have enough bandwidth for all of us. Thank you. And I'll start sharing as soon as I find the correct. Now you should be seeing my presentation.
Yes, we can see your screen, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to talk quite general level. I'm going to talk about education digitalization, and I hope the other two presenters will talk more detailed and more concrete about remote teaching and digital education practices. But I want to say something before they start, because I think it's important to know what is really needed and what is essential. And we have to understand this when we are thinking, when we are discussing how to suit the teachers, how to suit the digitalization in the teachers' work. And it's important to understand that it's not enough that we just have new technological tools. If we just buy new software, or for example, new applications, and it says that now we have make a digital transformation in our schools, we are lying. We have to understand what kind of different knowledge areas teachers must master, and we have to understand how these different knowledge areas are connected together. And here I refer to Kohler and Mistra. They have very good papers about teachers' knowledge areas, and they have divided this knowledge, needed knowledge, to 3 different areas. It's important that the teachers have content knowledge. Well, this is quite obvious. When you are teaching something, you of course have to understand what you are teaching. And historically, this knowledge area has been stressed, for example, in teacher education quite a lot. And then there is a pedagogical knowledge area, and meaning that teachers must understand what are the most efficient and effective ways to teach the selected topic in a given situation. And the importance of pedagogical knowledge have been understood only recently, and now it has been stressed quite much in teacher education as well. But then there is a third knowledge area, and I think this is quite essential area when we are discussing about digital transformation of teaching. Sorry, it's a technological knowledge, meaning that teachers have to understand how technological solutions can assist and improve the teaching and learning. And it haven't been discussed a lot in the teachers' education yet. Most of the teachers have to learn it during their work, and if we just buy some new software or some applications, we left quite a lot of work to teachers and quite much to be solved during their work. And that's a little bit problematic. And when we think about these knowledge areas, we have to understand that these knowledge areas are not mutually exclusive, separate island, but they have a clear relationships which must be understood. And they are not automatically overlapping either. For example, with certain content, some pedagogical approaches are more fruitful than others. And here we have a picture giving an example of this. We have a pedagogical knowledge area and content knowledge area, and the area where they are overlapping is optimal. So this is the area where both content and pedagogical knowledges are overlapping, and this is the area where it's easiest for teacher to teach, because he or she has enough content knowledge and enough pedagogical knowledge to teach the topic. So he knows what she is talking about, and he knows how to speak, how to talk about the topic. And the role of the technological knowledge is quite often like this picture. Teachers have very good pedagogical knowledge and content knowledge, and they are overlapping, and there is this optimal area, but quite often we have separate tools just given for use and say that here we have this and this kind of applications, you should utilize this in your work. And in that case, this technology is a separate and an independent knowledge domain. It doesn't overlap at all. there is no one talking about how this technology is overlapping the content we are teaching, how the technology is overlapping the pedagogical choices we have been selected, how we can utilize the pedagogy when we are utilizing technology, and vice versa. And this is problematic situation for teachers, because in this case, technology causes extra work for teachers. They have to have do the teaching, and then they have to do some technology things as well, and that it causes extra work, extra stress, and of course there are good reasons for that. Quite often the situation is that we just have some new tools, and it says that you have these tools, you have to survive with these tools, and there are not so many good examples, best practices, how the change should be done. Well, there is a clear connection to the training. Quite often there is lack of training. Assumption seems to be that having the tools is enough, and of course when we have tools, teachers are able to use them. And this is I think this is a lazy thinking, because every time you have to learn something, it's easier that if someone is making training and someone is teaching and helping. And this idea doesn't apply with other industries. For example, you can't put someone to use very dangerous machines without any kind of training. But the idea seems to be that teachers can start to use new tools without any kind of training. Well, of course, the one problem is the lack of infrastructure. It's not possible. Sometimes it's not possible to have computers for all, mobile apps. We may not have servers. We may not have a internet connection. There are several kind of problems with infrastructure, and there is lack of suitable tools or suitable solutions. And that's because software developers do not have content or pedagogical knowledge teachers have. Quite often the situation is that software have been developed by software developers alone. They don't know what kind of work teaching really is, and what are the different pedagogical choices, for example, and how different content differs from each other. They try to solve the problem that they code myriads of unnecessary features there. It's always easy to have more and more features, but it makes the softwares and applications too complex to use, and no one is really interested to learn all different kind of possibilities the software has. And quite often it seems that there is no automatization of the tasks that should be automatized, and there have been automatized that some tasks which shouldn't be automatized at all. And developing suitable solutions in cooperation with users is challenging and time consuming, and that's quite often the reason why the real users are not used when new softwares are developed, unfortunately. Well, what is the target? Here we have a picture from Kohler and Mistra. This is their TPACK model. The target is that all these three knowledge areas are overlapping, and the optimal area is the place where all these three knowledge areas overlaps. To achieve that, we have to understand how technological knowledge can overlap with pedagogical knowledge. So we have to have solutions which takes pedagogical points of view into account, as well, we have to understand the content knowledge. We have to understand when we are developing software, what kind of content is possible to deliver with these kind of solutions and how these areas affect mutually. But having this kind of situation is optimal. And how to achieve it, how to achieve the target. It's important to understand the fourth dimension of teachers' work. So it's not only these three different knowledge areas. It have to be understood the work processes of teachers. It's not enough that teachers masters all these knowledge areas if he or she is not able to suit all that in their daily work. So it have to be understood that there are a lot of other tasks in teachers' work that's just giving lectures. Teachers must plan the lectures and courses, assess for homework, assignments, exams, give grades, fill reports, contact parents, follow the regulations, update their own knowledge, whatever. There are quite much work to do which is not visible for students or parents, and well, sometimes not visible for managers either. But this has to be understood. And the key is that new digital tools must ease teachers' work, not cause extra work. If they're not supporting teachers' work processes, they are causing extra work for teachers. And I think the first case could be that teachers have to keep old paper-based processes and at the same time type the same information in several different digital tools. In that case, we can say that we have digital processes, but we have the paper processes at the same time, and teachers are doing too much time work than before. So it's crucial to understand teachers' work processes and how technology can support them. And more about achieving the target. So the digitalization things have to be planned and managed based on the understanding of teachers' work processes. So we have to understand what really happens, and we have to plan and manage the change based on that. And it's not possible to do everything at once. We have to have master roadmap where we start with small steps and simple solutions. And we shouldn't try to use all features in the beginning. So we have to select what is really essential and start with that, because it's too much load to learn everything at once. And it's important to get teachers involved. And it has to be asked what is the change or steps, what the change or steps gives for teachers. So tools should ease the work, not complicate it. And when we are planning the change, we have to understand that there are different levels where the change is happening. Of course, teaching is the core, and individual level, teachers, student, parents, it has to be understand how the individuals takes the change, how it affects them, how motivated they are, what effects there are. Then there is the school level and regional and national levels. And all these levels have to be understood when we are digitalizing the education. And training is the core issue. And in the training, we have to understand who we are training. When we are discussing about individual level change, when we are discussing about school level or regional or national level change, and it have to be based on these teachers' work processes. And training is important, and feedback is almost as important than training. So it have to be collected systematically, and we have to keep track about how well the training answers the questions, what kind of problems there are, what kind of challenges, should we change the training? So we have to be flexible, we have to be agile and make changes whenever they are needed. All right, this was my short talk about knowledge areas and one potential target related on the topic areas and some ideas how to achieve the target. Do you have any questions?
Guys, feel free to give your questions. Either you unmute yourself and you ask a question. You can also post them on the chat, and Autti will be able to answer.
All right. I have to stop the share so I can see the chat.
Does anyone have questions on the TPACK, which is technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge? Does anyone have a question on the presentation that Autti just gave us? I do believe, Autti, there was a request that can you please share your presentation so that we share it with everyone.
Yes, sure. I'll send it to you and you can share it, I think. Okay.
Sure, no. Okay. If there are no questions, then I would ask Lais to come on and give us her presentation. I think she is speaking about the flipped classroom. And I believe she knows more about that. So, Lais, the floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
And also, can you see my screen with the slide about flipped classroom?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So in this presentation, I will try to bring some sort of a practical approach on how to understand the TPACK model from the classroom experience of teachers, bringing the flipped classroom model as an example of that, of how teachers can integrate pedagogical content and technology knowledge all together. And the presentation will be super introductory because of our time, but I would like to check with the participants in one sentence, if you could express what you know about flipped classroom, just write a sentence in the chat. And after that, I will go and explain a little bit about how flipped classroom differs from the traditional method of teaching. And to understand that in a deeper level, I will bring the Bloom's taxonomy of teaching and learning. And then I will finish the presentation with what are the benefits for students and teachers by using the flipped classroom method. But to start, can you, all the participants, write in the chat, in one sentence, one word, something very simple, what you know already about flipped classroom? Also, if you don't know anything, you can write nothing. That's okay. I'm curious about your answers, so let me check here in my chat. Let me see. Let's see if someone shares. My understanding is that learners get an introduction at home to concepts, and then at school it is elaborated and applied. Nothing. Blended classroom, learning approach, the change classroom from the traditional one. Yes, these are already a very good start. And we can develop on that. Thank you with your contributions. So let's go a little bit further. So how flipped classroom differs from the traditional method? And to understand that a little bit more, we have to be familiar with two main concepts in the flipped classroom and traditional method terms. First, we need to understand that in the traditional classroom, the teachers come to the group space and they provide the direct instruction. By direct instruction, I mean transfer of knowledge. The teachers are presenting new concepts. They are helping the students to recall keywords and to have a basic understanding of what they need to learn. And after the group space, the students come home and they have to do the homework. And the homework normally involves the students applying what they learned during the classroom time in the group space to new exercises, to new activities. But they are doing this alone, individually. So in the homework time, in their individual space, the students are actually applying the higher order thinking processes that I will talk about it later, but they are doing this alone without the teacher support or even the peers support. The flipped classroom methodology differs from that, and the flipped word here is important because it literally flips the role and what is happening in the group space and in the individual space. So now in the flipped classroom, what we call direct instruction, the knowledge transfer, and the basic learning that the students will go through happens now in the individual space. Exactly how in the chat Elenice shared that the learners get an introduction at home and then at school they elaborate and apply. That's a very good summary of the flipped classroom. So first at home, the students receive some sort of guided practice or video material or recommendation of a reading, a text, a book, a chapter. And this is the direct instruction moment in which the students are having a basic learning. And they are doing this at their own pace, in their own time at home. And after that, only after that, the students gather together in the group space. And they will apply only then what they learned in the individual space, but together with their peers and with the support of the teachers. So now in the group space, the students are developing higher order thinking processes with the support of the teachers and their colleagues. Let's understand these processes to a cognitive in-depth level. And for that, we need the Bloom's taxonomy. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Bloom's taxonomy. It's a way of understanding the learning stages that all of us, students, teachers, humans, go through when we are learning something new. When we are learning something new, let's say the concept of ecosystem. We first try to remember key concepts, ecosystem, and then in a environment ecosystem, you have, let's say, the animals, you have the water, you have all the system, and you try to remember to recall the key concepts, the relevant knowledge. Then you take these key concepts and you try to make sense of them, of the relationships of them, by understanding these new concepts. In a further step, you try to apply this new knowledge, these new concepts that you just learned in situations that it's not more so theoretical, but now you are using it in practice. So for instance, you have an ecosystem crisis, let's say the fire, the wildfire in the Australian ecosystem or USA ecosystem. So how can we apply the concepts of animals, trees, vegetation, and so on to understand what is happening on that specific ecosystem? Further on, we try to analyze, to break the concepts into parts and understand how they relate to each other. And this is also important for the evaluation process when we can make judgments based on a set of guidelines. And finally, the last and most advanced step of the learning is when we are creating something new with this knowledge that we learned, when we put information together in an innovative way. So the Bloom's taxonomy tries to break down in phases or stages this learning process. And now let's see how the Bloom's taxonomy can be reflected in the traditional method of teaching and learning. In the traditional classroom, when we go back to the terms of the group space, let's say the class lecture, what is happening there is that the teachers are transferring knowledge, they're explaining a new concept so the students can remember keywords and understand, make sense of this new knowledge. And all of this is happening in the class lecture with the teachers and the peers. And only then, when they go to home to do their homework, to do the exercises or develop a project at home, is that when they are developing the higher order thinking processes. So they're applying the new knowledge they learned in the classroom, they're analyzing, they're evaluating, and even creating something new. But they're doing this at home by themselves. In the flipped classroom methodology, we try to maximize the way that these processes can be implemented so everyone learns better in a more efficient way. So now the students start by themselves with their own pace and time. They start to learning the basic concepts. So now individually the students try to remember and understand basic concepts. After they understand these basic concepts, they came to the class together, and the teachers now are not transferring knowledge anymore because the knowledge transfer happened in the individual space at home. Now in the class, the teachers can apply different types of classroom activities, such workshops, cooperative learning, project-based learning, problem-based learning, and many other types of teaching and learning methods in which students are learning together in peers, and they are applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating something new based on what they learned at home. But now in the classroom, they are doing all this higher order thinking process with the help of the teachers and with the help of their peers. Trying to summarize, the main idea is that while in the traditional classroom, we have a very teacher-centered approach in which in the classroom, the teachers occupy a central role of the gatekeepers of the knowledge, while the more challenging part of the learning is doing by the students alone at home without the teacher support. In the flipped classroom, now we have a more student-centered approach in which the students learn basic things, but they have the support of the teachers when they need the most. Just to finalize, the students benefits from teachers applying flipped classroom, and this has been documented in many researchers. I will bring it to you in the last slide, is that when students are challenged even in the beginning to learn, to have a kind of learning routine at home, the self-regulation skills to be able to understand basic concepts by themselves, this is a really, really important work skill and life skill that if the students can manage to learn that at schools, this is one of the most important competence that we can develop as a human. Also, it is very, very central to what the students can learn at home, and they can control the time and the rhythm of their learning. And this has shown to improve the academic performance and the learning results of students, and increased motivation as well. From the teacher's side, although flipping the classroom involves a lot of effort in changing traditional work processes and materials, after implementing flipped classroom, most teachers report both increasing the success rate of their students and also enjoying more teaching. So here are the references. Don't worry, I will make these slides available for the participants who want, and I'm open to questions or comments in the end of this webinar. Thank you for your attention. I will stop sharing and will cancel my video.
Thank you so much, Lais. I think that was a really great explanation and clear explanation of the flipped classroom. Personally, I think I haven't had someone explain to me that well. Yeah, guys, room and open floor for questions. Does
if someone also wants to write the questions on the chat, I will keep an eye on it and we can bring it later on. Yes.
Lais, can anyone hear Lais? I think on my side, my internet.
I believe there are no questions for now. So yes, thank you.
Okay. Yes, I just see some few comments where Erongo region they're saying I wish our school could adopt such approaches, and Elizabeth Ramoshana also says spot on. Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, there is a question on the chart, I think. What's the difference between flipped classroom and hybrid classroom? That's from Lenishi Kotoka. Lais, would you want to step in and answer that question?
What is the okay, the difference between flipped classroom and hybrid? Is that the question?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Yes, so flipped classroom, it's under the umbrella of hybrid teaching because and also something that I didn't highlight and I would like to stress more is that flipped classroom brings the three main areas of the TPACK model, the pedagogic, content, and technological, because many teachers in practice develop materials for the individual space where students will do homework and learn the basic concepts with some videos, some exercises in the computer or in a learning management system such as Google, Moodle, or in a Google Forms, and so on. So this is an example of how teachers can utilize their tech knowledge and skills, their tech competencies, in creating a video about themselves, giving a lecture, recording a video, maybe even editing, and share the video to their students so they can watch it at home, they can learn the base concepts, and then when they come to the classrooms, the teachers can make a fast assessment of what the students learned from the videos. And also these fast assessments can be used, can be done through different knowledges. I'm not sure if you heard of Kahoot. It's a very fun way of assessing knowledge. So the teachers in the beginning of the classroom time, they can check uh, from different ways and also using technology if the students understood the basic concepts from the homework. And then in the main classroom time, they are developing further this knowledge. So flipped classroom, it can be understood as under the umbrella of the hybrid education, hybrid teaching, because you have face-to-face time, so you have the synchronous time, but you also have the asynchronous education process in which the teachers created the materials before, and then the students have access to this material at another time with their own time and pace. So this is the asynchronous moment. And then when they come together to the class, then it's the synchronous moment. So this is a hybrid teaching methodology. Okay, I see another question. How do I design student-centered class activities using the flipped approach? This is super good question. I'm just afraid about the time. And Louise, what do you think? Should we discuss this question later?
No, I think we can discuss this last question. We're supposed to end at 1:15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how to design student-centered? I will turn on my video again because I think it's better. So how to design a student-centered class using the flipped approach. The flipped approach is considered by itself as a student-centered class in the sense that it gives the student more control over their learning process. What do I mean by that? When the teachers create materials for the students to learn at home, the students, they can choose at what time they will use this material, as long as it is before the contact meeting. So let's say the teacher send a material, okay, students, you have to go through this video until next week. Watch this video next week, and until next week, and next week we will meet together in the classroom and we will develop a project together based on the video. So when the students have this time to learn, they can choose, okay, I will learn on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday in the morning or in the afternoon or in the night, in the evening. I can watch a video, I can pause when I don't understand something, I can wind back, or this video is too easy for me, I can see it much faster, I can put the speed 2 times faster. So this is a way that we as a teachers are giving more control of the learning process of the students. When we give students time for them to decide and to manage when is the best time for them to learn, how they want to learn. It's also student-centered because yes, definitely. It's a great way of holding them accountable too, which is part of the self-regulation process that this supports the students to develop. And I am sure I have already faced this challenge myself, that when teachers are transitioning from a traditional classroom to the flipped classroom, students will resist. There is a difficulty to apply this, because self-regulation skills are not something easy to learn and to expect to have by the next morning, especially when in the traditional classroom that we are used to it for so many years, we just need to come to the class and listen passively. And that's what is expected from us. But when the teacher comes and tells to the students, hey, now you have to learn this basic knowledge, we can't also expect the students to learn everything by themselves, especially the difficult concepts. So, but now we have a different attitude. Now the teachers are holding the students accountable for learning basic concepts, for learning, for starting the learning process. And when we say, so now I expect this from you, I expect you to watch this, and if you don't understand, if you have questions, even better, bring these questions to the classroom time when we will directly approach your questions, your learning difficulties. But just expecting the students to start the learning process. And when students have to start, they might, okay, I don't understand this, but maybe I can Google it, or maybe I can ask my parent, or maybe something, because there is nobody telling them already the answers and everything. Now we give them space to start learning, and this can bring many motivation aspects involved, self-regulation, and other aspects. So this is what we mean by student-centered. Yes, also, when we remove the time of the classroom from the knowledge transfer, and we have more time for peer-to-peer learning, interactions, exchanging ideas, creating something new from what they already learned at home, this spontaneously becomes more fun and more interactive. Yes.
Great. Thank you so much, Lais. I do believe, yeah, you have answered the question well on point. And maybe just to make a point on that, that most of us, if we have been to university, we struggle a lot after school because university is mostly flat. You are required to learn a lot by yourself, but because our school system, we have been taught to just passively learn everything from the teacher. Most students do struggle a lot at university level, and that's a good one to be able to get our learners out of that system. Okay. I don't know if there is, okay, I think we can give the next speaker the chance to speak, and we can continue with questions after her. Katrina, are you ready for us?
Yes, we are ready.
Okay. Katrina, this...
Hi, Louise.
Hi, Katrina. The floor is yours.
Just want to start my video. Hello, everyone. Without wasting time, I'll just get into my presentation. Louise.
Yes, Katrina.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen there.
Just maybe to introduce Katrina. Katrina is a language teacher at Augustineum Secondary School in Windhoek, Commerce region, and she will be speaking about her e-teaching experiences in the general context and also in the local context, Namibian context. Okay. We can see your screen presentation, Katrina.
Okay, so my presentation is not going to, it's going to be a very basic one. It doesn't really have a lot of scientific knowledge, if I can put it that way. It's just I'll just be sharing my personal experience with e-teaching, which I did for the first time this year due to COVID-19. So it's a short one. I'm going to have a brief background and then share with you my personal experiences, like I said, before I conclude. So obviously, e-teaching and e-learning are not new topics. Everyone, I think, is moving towards e-learning or e-teaching because of keeping in step with global, how should I put it? The world is digital. Everyone is using the internet, and so the education fraternity is also moving in that same direction. So with that being said, a lot of African countries are also making strides towards e-learning, like Matinde, Vincent and Matinde said in their article. Namibia is also one of the countries that are also embarking on e-learning. There is a certain organization that refers to themselves as e-learning Namibia, and we offer, excuse me, Louise.
Sure. Katrina will be right back. I can see that the battery might be going low.
Sorry, I just needed to plug in my device. Sorry.
No problem.
So they basically give online classes on based on the Namibian curriculum, and can be found on that website. Yeah. So the outbreak of COVID-19, of course, caused a lot of problems and challenges as we have encountered them. And one of those challenges was how to continue teaching, or how to keep the children engaged while they are in lockdown. And although that is a challenge, it can equally be seen as an opportunity, because schools like mine could now think of online learning or online teaching, something that we've never thought of before. As the saying, desperate times call for desperate measures. So it seems sorry, okay. So there are shortcomings to e-teaching, even though it is seemingly the best, or it was at the time, the best solution to the problem that we had, where we couldn't gather, the learners couldn't come to school. The e-learning or e-teaching was, of course, the ideal platform to use. However, it doesn't come without shortcomings. And as listed here by Ganga and Ricketts, such shortcomings are such things as insufficient or lack of gadgets in schools. By gadgets, I'm referring to things like laptops and or notebooks, lack of electricity, connectivity, limited access to internet, learners underprivileged socioeconomic backgrounds, because obviously if children come from poor backgrounds, they cannot afford gadgets, let alone purchase data. So those were some of the challenges that I personally encountered. And I just want to mention here that me deciding to do e-learning or e-teaching was not necessarily an initiative of the school, but an initiative of myself, considering that I needed to teach. I needed to reach my learners, and I had to find a way to do that. So at the time when COVID-19 broke out, I was a new mom. I was at home, and I was considered vulnerable. So the principal, I remember the principal calling me up and just asking what plans I had for working from home, being a teacher, because like I said in the beginning, it was new. It had never been done where a teacher works from home. It's not a normal situation. So I had to think of a way. And I remember calling up a friend and just knowing that they had been delivering online lessons. She teaches in the private sector. She teaches in a private school. So she, I think her learners probably had the means to procure the gadgets necessary for e-learning. And so she sent me a video of herself teaching. And when I saw that video, it's as if a light bulb just popped open, and I considered doing it. In fact, I actually ran with the idea where I created PowerPoint audios, and I posted those on a WhatsApp group I had created at the time. But then the WhatsApp group only consisted half of the learners that I taught, or probably even less than half. And obviously the reasons are that some of the learners do not have smartphones. Others simply don't have access to internet. But nonetheless, I posted those lessons. Initially, I had planned on creating videos, but then I had to consider the learners' data, so I opted for audios. They seemed to have worked. The learners that were on the group got the lessons, and some of them even commented on the lessons. But it was still not the ideal way of teaching, because nobody wants to deliver lessons that they would have to re-deliver later, which was a possibility in my case because not all the learners were on that platform. So and the other shortcomings of the tool I was using was that I could not, it was one way. I could not get the responses of the evaluation activities, for instance, that I had posted in the PowerPoint audios. And so I couldn't assess how effective my lessons were. And as soon as I learned from my principal that Glodom had approached the school and they were offering training on one of their tools, their e-learning tools, or rather just an online form creation software, I immediately got excited, because then I thought I had a solution to my one-way sort of communication. Louise, how are we doing with time?
Yes, Katrina, please go ahead. We're supposed to, we have around 7 minutes, but I think, yeah,
okay.
We really do want
right. So, FormJack did sort of bridge the gap, or provide me with a tool that could allow me to assess my students and have sort of a two-way interaction. Be that as it may, it was good on the one hand, but on the other hand, I still could not continue with e-teaching because of privileged learners who may not be able to catch up with the others, and also the slow learners, or we call them special needs learners, and also just other learners. We have different kinds of learners when we teach. You have your kind that is motivated and wants to run with you. You have the kind that needs a little push always, and with online tools, you don't have that. You don't have that leeway. You don't have that opportunity to push the ones that sort of need pushing. And so even if they have access to gadgets, even if they have access to the tool that you're using, they will just not, they don't have the motivation to actually initiate contact with the teacher, or actually follow the lessons. So those are some of the shortcomings with regards to the online tool that I opted to use in general. So just to wrap up, the future is digital, and e-teaching has its shortcomings, as I have experienced them, and I'm sure many of you have as well. But it is necessary to consider exploring the incorporation of e-teaching as a mode of lesson delivery in basic education institutions. So briefly, Louise and everybody else, that was my experiences in a nutshell. Or my experience in a nutshell.
Great, thank you so much for that experience. I believe everyone is really being enriched. I do see some people commenting, saying this is great sharing. So we would, can you also please share your presentation with us that other people can have it? And Lais saying that your slides bring relevant points that we need to improve regarding the digital gap and the increasing the accessibility of remote resources. Yeah, Altti, so thank you for the valuable experiences. Okay, and Daniel says what you are sharing can it also be shared with all participants. Are there any other questions for Katrina at this point? Please.
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
I would like to know, Katrina discontinued the e-teaching in 2 weeks. Now, how would you advise the teachers who are vulnerable and who are currently vulnerable for them to be able to contact their learners as well during this time of COVID-19?
Thank you very much for the question. I think I expressed reasons why I had to discontinue the e-teaching. But I think if every situation is unique, I think it depends on the nature of the students, and also perhaps are they able to access e-learning tools. And if they are, I really think that such a teacher should run with e-teaching. And like I mentioned, Glodom does have the FormJack tool that can be used in conjunction with whatever tool the teacher chooses to use, whether it's WhatsApp or maybe email, to have that interaction. I personally had to discontinue it because I knew that I would have, and that is actually what happened, because a few weeks later, after I discontinued, I had to go back to school with the reopening of the grade 10s. And when I went back, I actually found myself repeating the same lessons that I had posted on the WhatsApp group, because majority of the learners simply didn't have access to the internet, and so they hadn't gotten any of the lessons I had taught there. But by whatever means necessary, I really do encourage the teachers not to give up, but to just try. Something definitely will work. And if they consult, if it is e-teaching, I don't know now what the who was it that posted the question? I'm sorry. I don't know what you expect, whether it's in terms of e-teaching. Daniel, I think with e-teaching, like I said, it's really something that I would personally run with as a teacher. But like I said, the shortcomings just make it really, really difficult with underprivileged socioeconomic background learners.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that question. Is there anyone else who has a question for Katrina as well, or comment, etc.?
No, no, it's not a question. I just would like to express my wish to have the opportunity to have more conversations about it, to understand better your context, and try to figure out some viable solutions for remote education that don't necessarily involve the internet accessibility, so we don't increase the digital gap. And I am very, very interested to continue this conversation in an informal way, to understand more and think together and so on. So I think your presentation was really, really interesting.
Thank you, Lais. I just want to comment on that, because with the outbreak of COVID-19, everyone was just, everybody was trying to figure out how to go about it. There are ways that teachers have explored. I've listened to radio several times, and I have heard teachers presenting their lessons via radio. But that also does come with its shortcomings, because again, I reiterate the point of social underprivileged socioeconomic background. where we have communities, for instance, where even just access to the radio is a challenge. But we can't just fold our hands and do nothing. I believe there is a solution out there with consultation.
Hi, I did get kicked out of the meeting for a slight period. Did Lais finish in terms of commenting? Are there any other questions?
Yes, I finished. I actually have to leave in 1 minute. So thank you so much for all the questions and comments. That was a very, very rich dialogue. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Okay, then we can wrap up this webinar. We are so glad that everyone could join us, and we trust that everyone has gained value from the discussions. Feel free to connect with us in any of our chat platforms or on our website if you want to continue this discussion. This can also allow us to know what type of webinars in terms of topics we can do next. And we will make the video or the recording available, and also the presentation available for everyone. Thank you again for having us, and yeah, goodbye everyone, and have a good day.
Have a blessed day, Nita.
Okay.
Have a blessed day, Lais.
Thank you.
Bye, Katrina.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Hello,
Altti.
this was nice, very interesting.
Thank you. Bye.